Thank you for taking time to watch the 39th Street Church of Christ Daily Devotional. The devotional today is Follow the Leader by Jack Williams.
You ever remember playing little childhood games? Follow the leader. That's one of the favorite. I want to be the leader. Well, in games, it's pretty fun. Do all sorts of things and don't really have to give a lot of thought to it. But in life, we need to realize that follow the leader. It isn't a game, it's a reality. And in fact, you don't look and say, I want to be a leader now, or I want to be a leader. We're all leaders, just different areas we're in. You look at 1 Peter, the 2nd chapter, and verse 8 through 12, talks about men taking the lead in worship assemblies. You find in Titus, the 2nd chapter, in verse 4 and 5, older women, you take the lead in teaching younger women. You find that all women are to be chaste. They'll learn to be, if they're married, keepers at home. In other words, they're the house manager, so to speak. They take care of the household matters. You find in the book of Ephesians, the 5th chapter, verse 23, men are the head of the household. They're the leader there. Ephesians, the 6th chapter, verse 1 and 2, children, obey your parents in the Lord. Well, that gives each, the mother, the father, you're the leader. They're to obey you, to follow you. 1 Timothy 4 and verse 12, young people, be an example of the believers. A die stamped that people can look to and see what it is. Every single one of us, Matthew 5 verse 16, let your light so shine that men may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. You see, every one of us lives a life that's not a game. It's leadership. And we need to consider how important that is, how sometimes we live in a world and people say, oh, don't look at me, it's not mine. No, it is us. It's our responsibility to be leaders. The Apostle Paul is perhaps one of the greatest leaders. 1 Corinthians 11 and verse 1, he says, be followers of me as I am also of Christ. Now that's the leadership quality we want. We're told to be in this world living soberly, righteously, and godly in Titus, the 2nd chapter. Well, how do we do that? What are some cues we can get, say, from the Apostle Paul? If you look in the book of Romans, you find in chapter 1 that some things are revealed about Paul that helps us to understand what it means to be a leader and a character that can be there for us. For example, you find that he is a leader. Remember, follow me as I follow Christ. He was a prayerful individual. In verse 9 and 10, we find that he says, God is my witness, whom I serve with my spirit in the gospel of his Son, that without ceasing I make mention of you always in my prayers, making request that if by any means now at length I may have a prosperous journey by the will of God to come unto you. He was praying for them. He was praying for himself that he could be beneficial unto them. He was one who was a trusting individual. If I'm going to lead, it's a big responsibility. Where do I put my trust? I put my trust in God. In verse 10, remember he said there that I might come by the will of God. In other words, like Jesus in the garden, not my will but thine. Lord's will is that which guides and leads a true leader in this world. Then you find in verse 11 and 12, he had prayed that he could come to them to benefit them. And now in verse 11 and 12, he says, I long to see you that I can impart unto you some spiritual gift to the end that you may be established. That is, that we may be comforted together with you by the mutual faith, both of you and me. He was concerned for the well-being of others, and he let it be known. Not hard to follow a person like that. He was persistent. In verse 13, I'd not have you to be ignorant, brethren, that oft times I purposed to come unto you, but was led or hindered hitherto. He wanted to bear fruit among them as he did amongst the other Gentiles, and he was persistent. He had been stopped, hindered, but he was going to keep on. Oft times I purposed. In verse 14, he shows the ability he had not to be a respecter of persons. He didn't show favoritism. He pointed out there that I'm a debtor both to Greeks, barbarians, to the wise, to the unwise. He wasn't selective. He was looking for any and everybody that he could lead, that he could be that example to help. He was one who was willing to sacrifice. When he talked about the things that he did, he said, so much as in me is, I'm ready. You know, we give it our all. Again, a leader is willing to sacrifice to be that example, that encourager, that prayerful individual, that one who helps. And he was seeking God's power. Maybe that's the key. You know, the more I learn of God and his will, the more I'm able to lead. In verse 16, he says, I'm not ashamed of the gospel of Christ. It is the power of God unto salvation. What a wonderful thing it is to see a world filled with leaders. Loved to play the game, follow the leader when I was a child. Loved to see kids playing that. But what a joy it is to see individuals, Christians, who take seriously their leadership role, no matter where they be found in life. Every single one of us has that opportunity, that privilege, that obligation to be the leaders that God wants us to be. I need to look and see if I can tell others, follow me. I can if I'm like Paul, following Christ. Have a good day. Be a good leader. Thank you for taking the time to watch this short devotional. We encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you'll be notified of other devotionals that will be forthcoming. Also, we encourage you to join us online live as we stream our services at each service time. More information can be found on our website at the link below. Thank you.